Hey legends, James Russell from Tradie VA, and every week in the Time Rich Tradie, we find out what it takes to build a trade empire, get you off the tools and not spend 80 hours a week doing it. If you like what you hear, subscribe to get more juice. Now, have you ever found yourself stuck trying to find good people for your business? You're sick of ads that go nowhere. This episode is going to give you some real direction. We're talking about how to attract top talent by keeping it real. And joining me today is actually someone who's walking the talk when it comes to building authentic, purpose-led teams. Haylee Murphy is the founder of The Centered Space, a values-driven healthcare business that provides allied health support to people across Australia. Now, you might be saying, hold up, that's not a tradie. We've found over the last few years that the similarities between allied health and trades is astonishing. Essentially, technicians out of their comfort zone, building businesses, trying to transition from the tools to being leaders. To be honest, it's almost exactly the same. And I've been absolutely inspired by the big picture, people first approach to growing her team, creating a workspace where collaboration, respect, and there's a real human connection that people can see from the outside. And it's baked into the way they work. And this obviously shows in the results, which is why she's here. So Haylee, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me and thank you for the intro.
Haylee, I really just wanted to start by unpacking that phrase, attracting talent with authenticity. What does that mean in practice for you?
Attracting talent with authenticity. The strategy is authenticity. That's what that means. So it's alignment with yourself and it starts at the top. Energy attracts energy.
You've obviously built the Centered Space with that strong purpose and vision. How did you make sure that message reached the right people from the start?
It starts with you. It starts at the top. So I got really clear on my own purpose first. In order to do that, I needed to do the work and I need to sit in my own shit, basically. And I did. And there's always going to be shit. The journey doesn't end, but I got really clear on my purpose and on my truth, not somebody else's.
Okay. So you got that internally. Now talk to me about how you started to get that purpose and present it to the world and what that looked like. Listeners here are going, all right, so if I can get clear on where I'm going and who I am and where I want to be, then how do I get that out there? And what does that look like?
You then turn that into your business mission and you get aligned with your personal and your business mission first and foremost. And if you can do that, then showing up every day is easy and it's real because all you have to do is show up as yourself instead of perform as something else.
You had a VA and you're like, okay, so I need to start building a team of people around this vision of mine. How do I let people know what that is? I was inspired by the content that you created. How did you start to create that?
First, I made a lot of mistakes. I was really uncomfortable and overwhelmed about presenting my truth. I knew what it was, but presenting my truth was really uncomfortable for me because it meant I had to be really vulnerable in order to do that. But I learned through the mistakes that I made, and you need to be okay to make the mistakes because that's where the lessons are. That discomfort and that vulnerability is the key. And so basically I started to make myself visible on my socials. And it was honest and it was real and it was raw. I didn't go and get any fancy branding strategies. I just started to show me.
And just started to talk. It was just face to camera being you and saying what you're looking for, who you were and what you were doing. And that was it. So tell me about that growth journey. Obviously you started doing that. How did that change and evolve over time? We're looking today at a situation where you have people lined up out the door in an industry where people are scrabbling to find one person to apply for anything. And you've got people begging to be there. Talk to me about that journey from the first time you just spoke to camera and said your truth and what your business was about. What happened after?
So the first time I was too scared to show up on socials and I recruited and I had 2 people apply for the job. And they weren't values aligned at all. So that was the first kind of big, aha moment. And then I started to show my truth on the socials and I started to just post and post. And I went back and I redid the website as well. And what was really important was the messaging on the website. Yes, I made it look pretty. I did it with my friend on Squarespace. She's amazing, our branding girl. But it was the messaging. And I got really vulnerable and real and, again, just authentic with the messaging. I did the same thing with the ad. It wasn't your typical Seek ad. Again, it was really authentic and that was intentional. I even posted on there, if you don't have a growth mindset, please don't apply for this position. My idea was to scare away the people that weren't right for the job and to just be as authentic and real as possible. So that was the first qualifying process right there. And then when I did post the second time, I'd gone back to the website, the socials, and I started to post myself and I got really clear on the messaging. I guess the other thing is I was very conscious of the values of the company. And I knew in the job ad that people are going to look at the ad and then they're going to go back to the socials and they're going to want to see that demonstrated. So it was strategy again. I wasn't just posting anything. I was demonstrating that I am who I say I am and I was showing them. And then when I posted, I had over 60 people apply. I guess the other thing in that is I chose not to believe that there was a recruitment problem. I didn't subscribe to that limiting belief. That was a story and I just chose not to listen to it.
We went from one Seek post that had 2.
Yes.
Then got authentic, posted who you were, did the website, you became visible there, did another post in Seek at the same place. In fact, an ad that was trying to get rid of people, wasn't even like the other one, and went from 2 to 60.
Right.
So again, if you're listening to this, we're talking about the power. This is not just stuff coming in from socials. This is how the socials affect a standard job ad.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And the only thing that changed, nothing externally changed around me. It was the internal. It was the making the mistake, the falling down, the looking at it, and then the taking the lessons and then just being brave and being uncomfortable and making myself vulnerable and shifting my mindset. The change was internal. The evidence was that I went from 2 to 60 applicants for the position.
This is you out there. You didn't outsource your values and your vulnerability. We sometimes try to keep this at arm's length, and this is not the place for it.
No.
Otherwise, people aren't going to be attracted to a recruitment firm. They're attracted to you. That's real. The numbers don't lie. You're getting a multidisciplinary team, speechies, OTs, support workers. These are skilled, these are technicians. How are you finding the people who are skilled, but also fit that team culture? How do you play that balance game?
Obviously, they need the qualification, but we're not hiring on the qualification. We are hiring based on values, and that's strategic. And that comes back to planning in the recruitment process. I had to make a few mistakes. So I'm not going to lie. I've made some hires that weren't values aligned, and I changed my recruitment process. I'm making mistakes and I'm learning. But it's strategic questions that you ask in the recruitment process, and it's a vibe check as well. So having a strategy and having a plan and then asking the right questions in the right way, not your obvious, how do you deal with stress, blah, blah, blah. So if I want to know if someone's on purpose and they're authentically aligned to the job and the company, I want to know what lights them up and why they chose to do what they did. And I'm looking for the heart and the fire in and behind the person applying for the job. So I'll ask them questions about what lights them up and why they chose to do what they did. And give me an example of a time when they were lit up by a client. It's based in their answers that I'm then extracting data basically. And I'm referencing back to our values. I'm looking for how they continue to grow, how they reflect, how they've made a mistake and what they've taken from that and how they've applied that. Watch them light up.
I want to see it. I want to hear it. And I want to know what it looks like. There obviously are some listeners here, and you said you'd made some mistakes early on. They'd love to avoid them, but they've already made them. There are listeners here who've already got their teams. So give me a situation you mentioned where you've had someone who didn't align and some listeners. Yeah, but thinking about my values, there's someone who shouldn't be here. You handle that while keeping it respectful and constructive.
No man is bigger than the mission, and I protect the culture at all costs, the culture of the company and the people within it. So the second I identified that there was a non-culture fit occurring, I very quickly isolated in a polite way. I acted very quickly. I asked them to work from home for the rest of their time because I isolated them from the team on purpose,
Right.
intentionally. I didn't want to continue to mix the energy. This is not personal to anyone, but every culture, it's different. You've got your own cultures and they all exist, and they're almost like their own ecosystems. But if you bring someone in, they can damage the ecosystem. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that person, but it means that they're not right for the ecosystem.
We do love, again, make it really practical for our listeners as well. If I'm a technician and I'm trying to grow my crew, I want to grow with people with a good fit. That's why they're listening, not just warm bodies, right? Because you've been there. We know that's not the way to grow. Let's say some simple, powerful ways to express values that they have. How do they express their values in their job ads or in their content? Something that they can actually take away this week that will shift the way they attract and retain talent.
I would say get on your socials and talk about who you are and what you care about, why you started what you're starting, why you're here.
That's the first place to start. Just literally grab the camera, don't think too
Show
hard
up.
about it, and just say, this is what I'm doing.
You get more comfortable over time. But that first post, I told them, this is not comfortable. I am out of my comfort zone and I'm doing it anyway. Just be honest. Just show up. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just try.
Absolute gold. This is going from 2 to 60, from unaligned to aligned, and from not knowing where to start to having people banging down your door. It is about as practical as people can get. And like I said at the beginning, you may not like it. The comfortable thing is to write the ad, stand back, and pray, hope, and don't worry. There's no growth in comfort.
There's no comfort in growth. And at the end of the day, it starts at the top. If there's a problem in your business, you are the problem and you need to be okay to sit in that. And your business is only ever going to grow to the capacity of the person that's leading it. So if you can have some radical honesty and sit in your own shit and start from there, energy attracts energy.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that journey. I've seen it. I've seen the journey. I'm just really glad that you've been able to share it with a wider audience now and giving us a real good look inside how you've grown such a grounded and impactful team. I know I got to meet quite a few of them. Listeners want to go and connect and see socials. It's the centered space.
Yes, the _ centered space. They can come and play.
I think, legends, if you've been banging your head against the wall trying to find good people, hopefully this episode has given you some clarity, and guarantee you know someone who needs this. Probably needs a kick up the backside as far as getting themselves out in front of the world. So if you're loving the podcast, share it, subscribe, stay tuned for more ways that you can systemize it, optimize it, delegate it, scale the bloody thing. Thank you so much, Haylee. Catch you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, James.